aspects. Before I introduce the speakers to you, I'd like to show you also the agenda of today's policy debate. We have some introductory words at the beginning. We will look at who is in the room, not only the speakers, but we will also make a poll to see the profile of people in the audience. We will then have a short introduction into the EU Youth Strategy and European Youth Goals from Alicia Holzschuh from Jugend für Europa here in Germany. And then we will have two debate slots. So we have a first part, both are 20 minutes approximately. And in the first, we would like to look at Youth Goal 1, connecting EU with youth. I will start with the first question, but I would also really like to engage all of you to use our chat to ask questions to the panelists. Manuela will pick questions out of the chat. We cannot guarantee that we will answer all the questions, but we will do our best. The time is limited, so we do our best to address all your questions. And then, as you can see here in orange, we have two musical breaks. In these breaks, we would like to show you two songs, very different ones. Why? Because we also look at this as Songs for Rights, at how we can actually address and promote EU values, European youth goals through music. This is something I didn't mention in the beginning. Songs for Rights is, for those who do not know that, we are very much, this is our core business to address human rights issues, EU values, youth goals through music. So we have a specific methodology and different formats for different target groups through which we address these kind of issues through music. And this is why we also would like to show you how music can play a role in addressing policy issues. These are the breaks, two musical breaks, and at the end we have another 10 minutes for additional questions from the audience, and that would be the structure of the next 90 minutes. So again, thank you for everyone who's there, and for those who are still coming. Let me now introduce you to the people in the room. So Manuela, maybe you can launch this first poll, who is in the room, for our participants. Regarding our special guests and speakers, we have and welcome Alicia Holzschuh. I mentioned you already. You are the Senior Policy Officer for European Youth Policy and Youth Work Strategies and Projects at Jugend für Europa. We also have Yvonne Hiller from the Deutsche Kinder- und Jugendstiftung. This is the German Child and Youth Foundation. Yvonne is a program manager and advisor on refugee issues, inclusion and children's rights. Then we have here in Berlin, based in Berlin, we have Ismail Paez Civico based in Brussels. Ismail is the executive director at Confederation of European Senior Expert Services, but Ismail has a lot of experience also in the youth and youth policy field, has been a board member of the European Youth Forum. And then we have Hanna Sattelecker, Youth Participation Coordinator at Salto Participation Information Resource Center, based in Estonia. Then we have two speakers from the organization EDIN. This is the European Democracy Youth Network. We have Yulia Dziuba, president from Ukraine, and Marie Kikvadze. I hope I pronounced all your names correctly, and if not, I apologize. Marie is a leadership council member and country lead for Georgia at EDIN. And last but not least, we have Niklas Peters, who is very much at the crossroad of music, youth work, and politics. He's a rapper and also a policy advisor to Timon Zienus at the German Bundestag. So I'm sorry if I did not dive deeper into your biographies. I also didn't because of the timing, but I can say this. All speakers here are very experienced in the youth field, youth policy field, in different ways. We are very, very grateful to have all of you, and we're very excited to have this exchange. It's a format we are also experimenting with, so we don't have, apart from Alicia in a minute, we don't have specific speaking slots. We want to keep this open and non-formal. And yeah, we're very excited to have you all. And the next part would be this short presentation or introduction into the EU youth strategy and the European youth goals, just to give a little bit of framework. So we, of course, could speak for hours about this and go very much into detail. We won't today, but this is a very important framework to be given. We believe also this week is the European Youth Week, also as a context. So thank you, Alicia, for agreeing to give a little bit of a crash course on the EU youth strategy.
Yeah, thank you, Jochen. Also, thank you for the invitation, for having me here. I was already presented, so I don't need to start with this. And don't worry, I will keep it very short and simple because, we could talk for hours, but I think it's also possible to list the most important parts in 10 minutes, and I will try to do that. So as you can already see on the slide, the EU youth strategy is the framework for EU youth policy and youth policy cooperation. And right now it's valid for the period from 2019 to 2027. So it will end next year, actually. And it's actually of relevance for both the EU institutions, but of course also for all the EU member states. And at the core of the strategy is basically the aim to tackle existing and upcoming challenges young people are facing all over Europe. So this is why it's also a very important framework, because it's the one document trying to have this perspective. And in that sense, it will also aim at fostering youth participation in democratic life, but also support civic engagement. And it also wants especially to ensure that all young people have the resources they would need actually to be able to also take part in society. So there's also this inclusive aspect that's quite central to the strategy. It's based on the 3 pillars you can see here. So engage, connect, empower. I don't want to go too much into details here, but maybe just to give you an idea of what's standing behind this. So engage is the part where it's a lot about encouraging young people to actually be active in civic and democratic life. Then we have the whole part of connect. So here it's a lot about enabling and giving chances to young people to travel throughout Europe, to meet fellow young people, and to have this mobility experience, to actually live Europe and not only read and hear about it. And we have the whole part about empower. And basically here, it's the field that's at its center. So also, what does the youth work field actually need to be able to support the young people in the work they are doing, and to empower young people to be able to take part in society. Then when it comes to the tools we have to implement it, this is the part where we could go on for hours, because it has a lot of different tools, a lot of different levels. So I will not go into details, but maybe just to give you an idea. Of course, there are things happening on national youth policy level, but you will also have the EU youth programs having a very central role, especially in the mobility part, for example. So Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps, which are the 2 programs enabling a lot of mobility throughout Europe for young people. And maybe some of you also know the EU Youth Dialogue, which is also one of the well-known, I think, implementation tools of the EU strategy, which aims at actually bringing young people into dialogue with policymakers in a specific frame. And then I think most interesting for today, because this is the part where also the debates will relate to, are the 11 youth goals that are actually part of the EU strategy. And what's interesting here is that they have been developed in a dialogue process together with young people. And in that sense, they will also reflect the areas that affect young people's life and the areas that would be important to young people actually when it comes to their life and also to their chances in society. I think what's important also to say here is that, of course, the dialogues and the development of the strategy happened back in 2018, so quite a while ago. And I think it's also safe to say that a lot of developments happened on a global level, but also, of course, having a look at Europe. So, of course, maybe if we would have the dialogue today, there would be also other aspects that are still missing here in this 11 youth goals, because of course a lot of other topics have came up within the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, we had a pandemic, we had wars being present closer to Europe now. So I think, of course, these dimensions might not be that present there yet. So yeah, just have in mind it's dating back to 2018. And maybe saying this, and this is also what I will already end with, as I said, the period will end in 2027. So right now there's a whole process going on, of course, for developing a new EU strategy and also including new EU youth goals for 2020 on 28 onwards. So basically, yes, there will be a follow-up strategy. And of course, this is also the chance to maybe adjust it again where needed to the new realities that we're living in nowadays. And I think that's it from my side. I try to keep it very short, but I think, the interesting part will actually be to dive deeper into 2 of the goals you can see here. And then, of course, some other topics might come up throughout the discussion as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Alicia. This is, I'm sure it was a record timing to present this. You've never done it that short. Fantastic. As I said, it gives us a frame, right? And many of us are familiar with this, but some of us might not. And as you announced, we would like to now look a little bit or debate and discuss a little bit specific issues. We wanted to kickstart here with the first youth goal, connecting EU with youth. We can, of course, go to other topics, other youth goals, but we wanted to start with this. And I also looked at the Youth Report 2024, and what struck me is that there is 60% of young people who have a positive image of the EU. There is also 70% who participate. Just a second, I'm gonna mute someone here. Yeah. I said yes, that 70% of young people do actually vote in elections. 90% think it's important to vote in election. But what struck me was that 1 out of 2, so 50% of young people actually think they have not really, their voice does not really count. So that there is, that it's not really, that they don't have really an influence on decision making. And there is seemingly a gap there. And maybe, Ismail, we can start with you. Why do you think there is this gap? Why do you think some young people might also feel disconnected from the EU? And with your experience also at the Youth Forum, maybe you can share a bit about what or what you think might be barriers also, or issues or things responsible for this disconnection.
Okay, I'm mute. Thank you, Jochen. Yes, actually, more than my background with the Youth Forum, I'm going to give another example on the European Union Youth Dialogue. So I was also in there and I was part of an expert group within DG Com on how can we bring the information of the Youth Dialogue to young people, because it's the age-old conversation that the information does not reach the grassroots levels of your typical young person. I mean, I come from a small village in Spain, and none of my friends have ever heard of the European Youth Forum, and some of them haven't even heard of the Spanish Youth Council. So it mainly comes to communication. I honestly believe that, again, social media can be a good way to get that information forward, but young people are just not informed of the different opportunities. I mean, just give the perfect example of Erasmus. When you speak about Erasmus, they're only thinking about the higher education exchanges. They're not thinking about all the other pillars of the program itself. And that is some sort of marketing. I mean, it's in the EU's interest, of course, that Erasmus is known, but again, it's only one part of the Erasmus program that is actually well known. So the main disconnect, I honestly do believe, it comes to communication and knowledge, because they just don't have access to that information. There are organizations that do a good job about this, like Eurodesk. So they do have some contact points, some info points that do manage to get this information through. But in a general rule, there's just not enough resources for us to get that information to the grassroots level. So there's a very small minority of people, and I include myself in this minority, and some of the people in the EU bubble, let's say, not just based in Brussels, but a bit all across Europe, that actually do know what's going on. And there's still no strategy. There's no clear cut. And one last criticism towards this, the member states also have a big role to play. And the problem with member states, this happens a lot with EU funding that they receive, not just in youth, but with the next gen EU funding, also with the recovery plan funding, is that member states like to give themselves credit for these new funds. So what happens a lot is that when member states are involved in EU programs, they will not sell it to the population or to their young people as an EU program. They will sell it as their own initiative, and this happens a lot also with again, with different programs, agencies. I will not say any specific names here, or examples, but I do think that member states have a crucial role to play to tell young people where this money is coming from or where these opportunities are coming from. So it's just, again, there's a big gap in communication. It's as simple as, and we still don't have the answer to it, because if you don't have civil society, member states, and the EU collaborating together on a common strategy, young people will never be informed about the EU and the opportunities that it brings them.
Thank you, Ismail. Is anyone wants to react to that or add something to this from the panel?
I would maybe go. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I fully agree. And also, I was involved in the EU Youth Dialogue before starting at Salto Participation in different forms. Myself, when I was still a few years younger, as a youth delegate, and then also as a facilitator, actually in the last cycle, conducting workshops in schools. So also talking to a lot of young people, in this case on the youth goal number 1, and on the feeling that that they have on being connected or disconnected to the EU. And I think what Ismail was mentioning about how it's known or not known was something that I experienced really in these day-to-day conversations in the classrooms. So there were like exceptionally schools that were really involved, where teachers were extremely engaged. There were these EU or Erasmus schools that had been certified in a certain way, or where teachers were doing a lot of activities that were connected to the EU. And then, of course, the knowledge was there. But apart from that, really, I mean, Erasmus, what is that, and what possibilities do young people have? In most cases, there was absolutely no knowledge on that, no information. So I fully agree on that point from my own experiences. And then I would also like to take a second point for me that contributes a lot to disconnect. And it's connected to how do we actually involve young people in topics that are relevant for them, and that we don't only consider as like typical youth topics. But it was mentioned before on the youth goals. I mean, we have a situation now in recent years with a lot of crisis. We have an ongoing war in Europe. Concerns around security, around migration, and so on are things that have become, of course, more and more important. And the question is, how do we understand meaningful youth participation, and how do we involve young people's voices, especially when it comes to real influence, real decision making. And as long as that is not happening on a stronger level, in my own position now, I'm through the programs, through Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps, trying to really strengthen meaningful youth participation within the programs. And there's really still a big gap of what we understand by it and how we involve young people. And if we have this more tokenistic, this approach to youth participation, where it's maybe about listening and inviting to conferences, and kind of having young people present, but then not really going further on what has been said and what suggestions come and what we can really take in. I think this really significantly contributes to the feeling that, then I don't really feel this connection to the EU and to what is being decided.
Great, thank you, Hannah. I think it was addressed before. I mean, there is also the other issue. I think that when we talk about young people, of course, this is a very diverse spectrum, and especially when it comes to marginalized groups, I think the gap is even bigger. And and we also mentioned two things. One is the EU and all its mechanisms, and the other thing are policy issues and topics, right? So, which are societal issues, from inequalities, mental health, climate, you name it. So the spectrum is huge, and I mean, we in our youth work, we work a lot with marginalized groups, and there I wanted to maybe also ask Yvonne, is there, from your experience, how would it, or is it possible to reach marginalized young people and address these big topics with groups which which are difficult to reach, and also even to address the topics need different strategies probably?
Well, there could be many answers to your question, Jochen. Maybe I would like to mention first that in the Berlin program that I am involved in, the target group is youngsters and children who have a refugee background. And I think that if it comes to the question how to reach out to them, it is very important that the action that is taken is very easy to access. And so, for example, in our case in Berlin, we have a very big group of youngsters and children with a refugee background, and the activities that are taking part in the course of our program are connected to youth associations, which really do very basic youth work. So they invite the youngsters, for example, in their vacations, to join programs where they can both learn the language of Berlin, which is important here for the educational system, German, but also be involved in what I would call the cultural life of the city. And I think one basic aspect is that the youth organizations which are involved have a very good connection already to the communities they want to work with. So I think it is really important to open activities to the target groups by approaching them directly, and not, having very brave ideas about, let's say, for example, Erasmus, which can reach only very few in the end of the day. And I wanted to also mention something about the question who can identify with the EU. I think it could be a big group of youngsters who could identify with the EU if they understand what can be done for them practically, as Hannah said before. But if it comes to young refugees, one has to mention that it's quite difficult for youngsters who have already the experience of fleeing from their home country to the European Union, and maybe they have experienced really very strong restrictive mechanisms of the EU. So for them, to identify with the European Union, it's a very long way. And first of all, they have to feel welcome to where they get to, and they have to understand it's safe for them where they are. And they have to understand that also their voice is taken into consideration. Yeah. And now I put a point here, and maybe we open the platform again for the others.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. Maybe
we also have a
some-
couple of questions already, if you would like
Yes.
to.
Yes.
Yeah, the first one from Saeed Ravashde. Sorry if I mispronounced it. How can music help young people in rural areas reach decision makers? Saeed from Jordan. So maybe one of you would like to answer. I can repeat it.
Yeah, I think you don't have to. Maybe already, yeah. The topic of music, it's maybe something we can ask Niklas. You have experience with as a musician, of course, but also working with young people in addressing policy issues, societal issues through music. You have led several workshops with us in Songs for Rights. So maybe you can maybe say something about where you see the potential of music in addressing policy issues with young people as a different format to the classical formats maybe which are used.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. First of all, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, like you said, I'm Niklas Peters. I'm a policy advisor at the German Bundestag, but also I'm a rapper from Berlin, and I was a coach for Songs for Rights. So it's great. We had a couple of workshops and created songs who deal with issues like bullying, strategic racism, and race on how to empower girls, especially for marginalized communities. And I would say, rap translates abstract issues like inequality, migration, civilians, and everyone can create a personal, emotional narrative. And you can break down human rights issues and create powerful messages, tell your own story, and reclaim dignity. And it's this question about like using music as a tool in areas that are more far away from cities. I would say this is a great way to say, like we have a problem. You're creating it, linking it to your own story or to the regional problem, and then you're creating a song. And it's easy to share the song currently with social media, and through social media you get empowerment and mobilization, and you can really inspire activism and create a community through rap, because it and music, because it does not just describe problems, and like also like what Yvonne said, like I mean, rap is a great tool because you don't need much of technical development, resources, and it's a direct way of engaging every age. Like I worked with kids who are 9 years old, with kids who are like 13 years old, 17 years old. I even made workshops in prisons with people who are like 35 or like if you have a story, if you have a problem, this is a great tool to engage and have also an impact on policy, but we can come back to that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Niklas. Yeah, this is I obviously I pretty much share this. The format of music is something which is definitely has a lot of potential in engaging young people into policy topics. And do we have and we will show you also some examples later. If we have another question, Manuela, I think we have another 5 to 7 minutes for the first slot.
Yes, we have
another
more
one?
questions. Actually, there's someone who asked 3 questions, but maybe I can start from the first one. What concrete mechanisms do you see for achieving an even distribution of the Erasmus Plus program so that it reaches students from all backgrounds and environments, not just urban schools that already have existing capacities?
Thank you, Manuela. So equal distribution. Alicia, do you, or also Hannah, do you maybe have ideas around this question? Was it? Yes.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I want to just make a small comment based on my experience. I've been working with youth empowerment in rural areas for the last 8 years already in Georgia. And one of the key mechanisms that we use to reach the groups that are having the limited access to internet information, and sometimes there are existing opportunities, but they never reach the target audience, especially in the rural regions where the access to internet and access to information is really limited. We have piloted several approaches that really work. I have experience of implementing EU-funded programs in the rural development sector, and one of the key mechanisms that has worked quite well in our experience is that once we have for example, piloted Erasmus Plus or any other EU-funded program, for example, Youth Camp for Green Innovation. Whenever we have participants, we try to build alumni network. And alumni network is something that really works. So we try to collaborate with schools, teachers, so on and so forth. But one of the most powerful parts is that the peers sharing their experiences. And we always target, for example, people from like small towns, but who are like representing one region. They are mostly in urban areas. But if we want to disseminate information on the new existing opportunity, we recall them to find the ways to reach the ones who are very vulnerable or limited access to information, like the to reach the schools or reach the youth who live in the same region, but maybe 30 kilometers away from the town or center. So that has been the practice that we have been using and observing over a decade, I would say. And social media campaigning is good. Nice videos are great. It's really nice communication visibility materials. It reached the target audience that already surfed the internet and find the information. But when you use the people who were your program participants previously and represent a certain region to deliver the message, share the experience, and disseminate a word about new existing opportunity, that has been the most powerful. I have implemented the programs like Hidden Treasure, that was all around the Georgia. It was a really long, like a really long project that brought alumni of different network representatives, youth-funded programs, also EU-funded programs. So all the alumni that we were, it's a voluntary basis, I would say. It's not like we had really much funding for that, but for the logistical part, there was supported. We always include in the sustainability component that composition, and we traveled in the regions and arranged the meetings, not in the city centers where everybody can pass by and stop by and see what's going on, but going in the rural regions where sometimes access to the mobile cell is really difficult. Doing something there, even showing up, is something a big deal because they don't see the people outside. So that has been the practice that we have been using quite successfully, and I have like really specific results to share later on if you're interested, to not bore you with the specific details. But this is really good. Peers sharing their experience in their regions and trying to reach out the ones who are really limited to information is one of the key success that have been observed from our side.
Yeah, that's a fantastic example. Thank you, Marie. And not so conventional approach. So this is really a good example. We have another couple of minutes before the first musical break. Do we have another question, Manuela?
Yes, I can read
Yes.
one more question. Who can take more active role in matching partners for schools that cannot find collaborators on their own, particularly in rural areas? Again.
Who can find matching partners? Is this the key question here?
Yeah, who can take more active role in matching partners for schools that cannot find collaborators on their own, particularly in rural areas?
Anyone wants to take that question? Julia?
Sure. Hi, colleagues. Sorry, we had a raid attack on Kyiv, and I was in a bomb shelter before. So, sorry. I think the question is really important because, as a Eden president now, I'm representing 23 countries, but that was a time 5 years ago when I was in charge for the improving youth policy in very local community on very local level. I was a head of the youth council in my town, and it's not big town in northern part of Ukraine. And we had a similar problem because basically, we already discussed a topic of underrepresentation and marginalized groups, and this is always the problem for them to find appropriate opportunities, but also partners. And here, I think the most important to understand that there are biggest players on the same area. So this kind of, let's say, schools or small councils, they should reach out to. In my case, we reach out to the national organizations. Yes, there are some national youth organizations who usually have a capacity and willing to help more local initiatives and schools as well. And another things is, of course, reach out to your local council, reach out to your, I think nowadays in most of the local councils, there are youth advisory boards already, or at least one youth advisor. So these kind of people, they're usually more proficient in finding partners and matching schools or institutions. So I would say reach out to someone who have a capacity, and especially those who are working in the field. Maybe this is a very bureaucratic way, but sometimes it helps because those people are originally responsible for helping such initiatives. So I would reach out to them, and then once you have a bit more partners, reach out to that partners when you're looking for another as well. It could be thematic areas, different topics of collaboration or whatever, but don't wait and don't think that you are too small. Even small initiatives now, I would say even more important because they are showing real impact on the very local level. And a policy should be built from the grassroots to the top level. not in the different way from the top to the grassroots, in my point of view as a policymaker. So I would say reach out to the national youth organizations, youth councils, youth advisors in your area, but also don't hesitate to reach out even via LinkedIn. Sometimes I reach out to via LinkedIn when I was a only beginner in the youth sector, and I receive a lot of positive comments and a lot of help via this. It looks like only social media, but it helps. Believe me, reach out and use official but also non-official ways of communication in that way. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Julia, for these great strategies. And it's obviously it's great to see that it's not a theory, but it's coming from your practice, and that's very, very precious. Thank you for sharing. We reached already the time for the first break. So I told you we want to show you songs. So this might be unconventional in policy debates, but as we explained, we at Songs for Rights, and Niklas shared it as well, what we try to do with young people is to engage them in policy topics, and often very large topics like human rights. What we do here through these breaks is, the first example we want to show is a song which is a worldwide known song, and it's quite old. For the younger people, you might not even remember this, but this is a song which was released in 2003. The Black Eyed Peas are quite known, and at the time they reached tens or hundreds of millions of people. It's a song about human rights topics, about violence, about the lack of unity and solidarity in society. It addresses media manipulation, racism, inequality. And this song obviously is, as I said, worldwide known, but it definitely spoke to young people. It was also, I researched on this, used a lot in educational settings, in formal and non-formal education, to just bring certain topics closer to young people, to engage them in discussions. And we're going to play it. We're not going to go into a very deep analysis of this song. We later will show a very different example, a Songs for Rights song, which is a much more local product and will probably not be a world hit, but nevertheless will show you how can you address policy issues with young people. So also technically, we won't play it through this Zoom, but we will put the link into the chat, so everybody can watch it on their computer. It is more stable for the image and the sound. Do you have it, Manuela, ready to put in the chat?
Yes.
If not, I also have the link. And then we just, take 5 minutes. The song lasts 4 and something, and then we continue.
Just a second. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, enjoy and see you in 5 minutes.
$3.55.
Sorry, I think I don't hear any music.
Same.
Yeah, I think there is some
So,
issue.
sorry, yes, I'm here. The idea is that you go to the link and listen it in your own computer so that you can have a,
Oh,
a
okay.
better
Okay.
sound and quality of video, because if not, it wouldn't be good here. Yeah.
Okay, so I think 6 minutes have passed. Everybody should have watched the song. As I told you, I'm not going to go into analysis. Some people might like the Black Eyed Peas, others won't. It's just an example of certain issues being addressed through music, and we show you, as I said, another example how we also address the youth goals through music in one of our latest Songs for Action trainings. We now continue with our debate. So we wanted to start with the youth goal 4, and it's called information and constructive dialogue. And again, we know that most of the information young people, or the main source of information for young people, is social media nowadays. And also in the youth report, what I read is that although this is the main resource or the main source, 50% of young people do not feel confident to identify misinformation. This is obviously a big topic, also in relation to policy issues and societal issues, misinformation, fake news. We have hate speech. These are all big issues, and my question here would be, if there is this exposure to social media, and at the same time this 50% of young people not feeling confident in identifying misinformation, what else can be done? Is it about more capacity building of young people in media literacy and critical thinking? Is it should be the focus more on putting more responsibilities on platforms when it comes to these issues? Is it both? It's a very big topic, obviously, but maybe we can hear from some experience and some experiences and some examples from the panel when it comes to this information, and also the EU trying to reach to young people. Yeah, whoever wants to take the mic.
Can I also?
Yes, please, Marie.
Thank you for this important topic to discuss. I will be sharing another experience that I've been implementing that seems to be very effective in terms of tackling with disinformation and reaching more youth. So as we all know that information spectrum, especially in social media, is becoming more and more vulnerable in terms of real and information, and what is not real gets viral quite easily, and it is panicking society quite well. So when we want to reach the youth with the specific topic or any other sectors, it is really difficult to kind of have a balance on the structured, reliable information that also has the EU guidelines and donor funding frameworks, at the same time to make it attractive for young people to engage and just to end up being in their newsfeed. So what we have been implementing many kind of different practices. One of the key things that I can recall from past experience is involving kind of influencers, the people who gets a lot of followers, so make a noise. Doing the influencers campaign about this specific topic that wants to be activated, but selecting the influencers, the right ones who can promote the words that we are kind of trying to disseminate. For example, if I want to have the campaign about waste management systems or reducing the waste by implementing daily habits, and I hire the influencer who is like promoting this in one reel, and then in another it's like polluting the environment, that's kind of contradicts each other. So what I've done previously is that kind of trying to select the right people who has a lot of audience to activate the topic. Not the last year we did the energy efficiency campaign with Georgian influencers, but it was not like the typical campaign. So I decided to have it in like per month to just activate the topic about what is energy efficiency and why does it matter. Having the street polls from their side, writing the script, and then having kind of a poll. It's campaign to avoid like the sponsor ban, so it had really good reach. You reached 1.5 million people in Georgian audience because it seemed very organic, and I chose the influencer who was constructing the house, so that was really right for them to share energy efficiency practices and selecting right technologies for them. That was the first move, but to build on something like and make it sustainable, then I connected to the media. So once it gets like loud on social media, then traditional media is also very important to play the role. And energy efficiency and renewable energy is kind of a very technical topic. When we talk to peer agencies to do something, they were like, "Oh, it's too technical to really like good reach." But I turned these technical things in really like everyday life stories. So then we trained 15 media representatives covering all main national and regional media representatives in media mentorship program. And what I use in every practice that I pilot with youth, media or any sector that produces something out of the knowledge, that it's not a typical workshop. It's either bootcamp, mentorship program, or something where we train them, we give them the knowledge, and we kind of make them responsible to produce the end product. So for the mentorship program, what was the key selection criteria that at the end of the workshops that we mentorship.
Sorry, Marie. Marie, sorry to interrupt you, but it's a difficult. It's a bit difficult to listen to hear you. Maybe you can go near the microphone, or because it's.
Can you hear me now better?
Better, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'll be like this. So the key selection criteria for every kind of sector, including youth we work, is that we kind of let them know once you get training, you should produce something out of it. It's not like voluntary, but it's obligatory. So if I train youth in the camps about digital campaigns, I ensure that I have right equipment for them to select the topic at first and then produce a social media campaign, like the real videos, reels, posts, and everything that can go live. That is one approach. And for another one, when we have more official people involved, like the media representatives and journalists, we train them, we make them create outlines of the topic and then disseminate the information through their channels. So typical workshops and trainings became something kind of outdated, I would say, because when you invite youth to participate in a training, they don't really get motivated to do so. But when you invite them to create something and then get support to make the best out of it, it is more motivating. And it's when our target audience, like youth, became authors of the topics that they want to promote, they have more kind of leadership to disseminate it rather than having a really well-structured training teaching them how to tackle the disinformation. So this has been really well-tested approach from my side. The influencer campaign, media mentorship program, youth programs, like having the workshops, but at the end, no matter what is the topic, the participants produce a real content that they get kind of attached to disseminate, rather than our organizations doing the campaign, asking the participants to share. So I don't know if it's helpful, but
yes, thank you, Marie. This is again a great example. Anyone else want to react to this, or do you have another question regarding this? Yes, Marie?
About what is outdated, I would say like the typical training where you just invite people to teach something and there is nothing like follow up, no sustainability. I mean, in our practice, when we invite people, we announce like call for participants for the disinformation training. Hardly ever applies. But if we have something like the sustainable, or we will teach you how to tackle this, and then it will be a workshop or hands-on experience, that's more kind of motivating in our community, say.
Yes, that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it seems also that I mean, certain political, I mean, populist and anti-democratic parties seem to be very strong, or some of them at least, in using new tech. And sometimes I have the feeling that when it comes to promoting EU values and these kind of things, often, we do a not as good job in using technologies. At least that's my impression I get sometimes. Anyone wants to connect to this?
Maybe just to add up
Alicia,
a bit on
yes.
what has been said, and maybe this is also where we can loop back to the topic of participation. I think generally, and I would support what was just said from the practice, I think it always makes sense also talking about communicating the EU to young people, no matter from what institution, what level. I think it always makes sense to have also peer-to-peer communication, meaning that, of course, if we want to communicate to young people, include them, and not only in asking, okay, what would make sense, but maybe including them in the ways of communication, the wording, the channels, whatever. And I think in that sense, talking about meaningful participation, it also needs a lot of more established structures that will support young people in being co-creators. I don't know, youth advisory boards for different institutional levels. I think it's valid for a lot of different things, but I think the best way to reach out to young people is actually to include them in the communication process, because they will know best where their peers are, what will work with their peers. And again, keeping in mind, of course, that we talk about young people, but the target group is very diverse as such. So maybe also having an eye again on, okay, but who will be then the ones that will participate in the co-creation process and all of that. But I think, if we really want to go for it, it needs a much more structural approach, especially when we talk about institutional levels of having structural youth participation in order to also reach out to young people.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you, Alicia. And I mean, even just the age groups are so different in terms of how they communicate and what channels they use, etc. And then, I mean, you can break it down to so many other aspects. So it's very diverse. Thank you for that. Niklas wanted to add something to this as well, yeah?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to raise the point of cross-border culture and European solidarity through music, through collaborations. I mean, there are like songs, and you're doing this work who span networks across cities and countries, but also rural areas. And this is creating European spaces. Like we have a common beat, but we have different languages. So this is like a great example of unity and diversity. And I would say, like, when we want to promote EU values, like the magic of music is that we are not sounding like an official campaign, but we're making those values lived and visible and reliable, especially for marginalized audiences, and we can form political dissent and European countries. They have similar issues across borders, and that's why it's a great way through music to mobilize people for community organization, but also for protest and for democratic life. Thank you.
Thank you, Niklas. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's you speak from my heart. I mean, this is an example we want to show you later as well about this very point you made of one of the songs for rights trainings we did actually last week. But let's take more questions from the chat maybe for another 5 minutes. Do we have a good one, Manuela?
We don't have new questions.
Right.
After the break, there were no new questions. No.
Okay, then we can actually make that link because it's for me this second musical break was planned actually for 4:10 past 4, which it is now, and so it's maybe a perfect bridge also to what Nicholas just said. We have this second musical break here. It's not the Black Eyed Peas. It's not an international hit. Maybe it will never be. Who knows? But it's an example of as I just said, a training we did last week. We thought it's actually quite fitting to today's debate. So we met in Croatia last week with 20 youth workers, activists and musicians. The topic was the 11 youth goals. So we discussed these youth goals during 3 days. We in Songs for Rights, we do a lot of facilitation training in these trainings where we show youth workers how they can engage young people on these topics through musical exercises and activities. And so we did. So during 3 days, there was the youth goals were discussed, and also, of course, the personal experiences of people in the room connected to these goals, and not just 11 youth goals. It's really about personal stories, about personal experiences related to these goals. And then on the fourth day, we went into a songwriting exercise. We asked them to write a song. We call it the Frankenstein technique. So we had different groups where different smaller groups wrote different verses about the youth goals they feel connected to, and then we put everything together. We brought a computer and a microphone, and they recorded the song there on the fourth day. And during 2 or 3 hours, they had only to also make a music video. So they finished everything in that training, and we want to show you this song. It's called Give Us 10 Years, and it is sang in many languages: English, French, Dutch, Croatian, German, Spanish, Italian, and Urdu. So the translation of all the lyrics are in the YouTube below. And again, we put it in the chat so you have a clearer sound and image. And we take 5 minutes.
I wanted to add
yes,
only
please.
just as an introduction, so that this song was finished on Friday, and it is what we did on Thursday and Friday. So now it needs to be mixed and mastered so that it has a good quality. But this is the quality that we got within these 2 days, and it's already amazing, but it is unreleased. So just for you not to share it, let's keep it here, and we will release it very, very soon with a better audio quality.
And the link is there already?
Yes, I put it in the
Okay.
chat. Sorry.
Super. Great. Thank you. I think the 5 minutes are finished, and yes, so this is just has been an example of how you can use music to address youth goals in terms of exchange and learning, but also in terms of artistic expression, and what we have now for the additional last 5 to 10 minutes is more question to the audience. Maybe some of you would like to also add something about the general topic of promoting European values or youth goals through music. Niklas, you already shared some of your experiences, and I don't see any more questions in the chat here. Manuela? You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. No more questions. Someone says that would like to add something, but nothing added yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yes.
He's talking about the music. I'm just adding this thing. That is my opinions. Music is a powerful form of expression that connects people across cultures and emotions, and it creates a shared experience, encourages understanding, and can inspire dialogue making, and and can lead to discussions.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, music is just a tool. Also, it's not maybe a very strong policy mechanism tool, but it's definitely in terms of capacity building, in terms of exchange, and creating, as Niklas said, European spaces. It's something which can contribute a lot in sharing experiences, expressing thoughts and feelings around topics.
It encourages understanding and can inspire dialogue making, and it's an effective medium for bringing young people together.
Yes, absolutely. We also have many more examples of songs like this on our YouTube channel, by the way, if you want, also with young people and children. It's something worth checking out. I also wanted to make you aware of something we will be launching next week. We on this very topic on how can we promote European youth goals through music. So we have just developed and finished an advocacy guide where you can find a lot of insights on how to use music to promote and address European youth goals with a lot of case study examples. And we will be sending it around next week through our mailing lists, social media, etc. And maybe to also close with a quote which I find quite fitting. So songs won't save the planet, but they can inspire the people who will, which is from Peter, just a second, Peter Seeger, who was a folk singer in the US. yeah, and if you have anything, if you don't have anything to add from the speaker side, we would close this online debate, but let's give it another 2 minutes for eventual thoughts or final comments. Maybe, yeah, from the speakers. Yvonne, maybe we didn't address so many questions to you, but yeah, we can take another minute or two. Well, there is no final message here, but there is a final big thank you from our side to all the participants, all the speakers. Thank you so much for taking the time, making the effort to be here. It was extremely insightful. I found it very interesting, and we will be organizing more of these events. We will be advertising that on our socials. For now, I say thank you. Have a fantastic long weekend ahead, and we will be in contact with you, and also for the audience we will be sending a follow-up email with more information about our work and this advocacy guide and more. So thank you so much for everything. Have a nice weekend.
It was very interesting and inspiring meeting.
Thank
I'm
you,
looking
Marie.
to be engaged more in these initiatives that you implement, and looking forward to seeing the advocacy guide. It will be very helpful, I see.
Thank you, Marie, and thank you
Don't
to everyone.
forget to send around the video when it's ready so that we
Yes.
can share it.
We
Yes.
will.
Thank you.
Of course.
All
Wonderful.
right, then.
Thank you for the organization, and
Thank you,
bye-bye.
Niklas.
Thank you from my
Thank
side.
you very
Anna.
much. Very
Yeah,
nice
thank
to
Yeah,
meeting.
you.
Take
We all
care.
love you.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
Let's